Hello, church, and welcome to our online service. I trust you're able to enjoy some time off with loved ones over the Christmas break. This has been a pivotal year for our church, and we've launched multiple new ministries over the past 12 months. One of the highlights this past year has been experiencing the Lord's favor on our expansion vision. The Lord has helped us with our zoning and parking requirements, and we're now working towards an expansion that will double our occupancy and provide a much-needed dedicated space for both kids and youth ministry. We invite you to consider partnering with us and help cover the added costs that will come with doubling our square footage. We've created a special giving opportunity we're calling Seed Sunday and are believing God for 250 people to pledge $50 a month to help us cover the increased ministry costs. We invite you to check out more information on our website. In just a few minutes, Pastor Ryan will be sharing a message, and before that, we'll enjoy some worship we recorded at one of our Sunday night services earlier this year. Let's worship together now.
be magnified. Were the whole earth echoing his imminence, his name would burst from sea and sky. From rivers to the mountain tops, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Come on, let's lift his name here tonight. When every creature finds its inmost melody, and every human heart its native cry, then when one enraptured hymn of praise, we sing Christ be magnified. Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. We say, oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. We lift it high. I won't bow to idols. I'll stand strong and worship you. If it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. I won't be formed by feelings. I hold fast to what is true. If the cross brings transformation, you can hang me there with you. 'Cause death is just a doorway into resurrection life. And if I join you when you're suffering, then I'll join you when you rise. When you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, oh, my heart will still be singing. My song will be the same. We'll sing that again. I won't bow down to idols. I'll stand strong and worship magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in. Come on, let's sing this together. And oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Thank you, Jesus.
Hey, well, good morning, good evening, good whatever it is, wherever you are watching from, whenever you're watching. If we haven't had the opportunity to connect, my name's Ryan, and I get to serve as the executive pastor here on the team at the house, and what a joy that is. I hope that this Christmas season has been filled with all sorts of good things, family, friends, good food, but most of all, I hope it's been filled with rest. I hope that you've found reprieve from the everyday demands of your job and your life, and that you've been able to focus on who and what matters most, the people you love and the person of Jesus. We're coming upon the new year. New Year's is a strange time, isn't it? It's that time where we dust off the old willpower. It's been an aggressive season of excess, hasn't it? 2, 3, maybe 4 trips to the treat tray. Maybe you've overindulged in the apple cider or the grape juice. Maybe you've just had a spree at the bay and you're giving them a separate chance at commerce with all of your Christmas shopping. Whatever your Christmas season looked like, the new year is a time where we begin to reevaluate our lives, our loves, and the things we give our attention to. And of course, sometimes our waistlines. But it's a season of new beginnings. Have you ever thought to ask yourself, why is that? Psychologists call this the fresh start effect. It's a clean break in time where we finally feel like we have the chance to establish a new normal. A recent study showed that most people don't actually view their life linearly, but instead we see it more like a book, in chapters and sections, and that we like to divide it up that way and start afresh. While New Year's may very well be a big break for you, maybe your next big break, kick at the can to get that goal out of the way, to conquer that thing, I think for many of us, it's simply a scapegoat or an excuse to delay what could have been started months ago. I mean, let's be honest. All those boxes piled up on top of your treadmill, did they really have anything to do with Christmas? You know, how about the 14 times you visited the grocery store since you said, I really got to get my diet under control? Or maybe it's your iPhone telling you, hey, for the love of God, just set some screen time parameters, please. And it's only been doing that since iOS 12 came out in 2018. Or maybe for you, it's not those things. Maybe it's that the lifestyle you want to attain before being financially generous is always just continually a little bit out of reach. That between inflation and crushing interest rates, you can't ever seem to get ahead to give the money you want to give, and so you never do. Maybe the time you want to spend with your kids is always just on the other side of that busy week at work. You know, once I get this project under control, yeah, it's then that I'll have a little more time to spend with my kids. But you don't get it under control, and so it doesn't. You see, is New Year's really the best time, or are we just afraid to start where we are at now? In full transparency, I need to be honest with you, I had a conversation with Sarah just last week, and it went something like this. Man, my skin, it has been killing me. I think I gotta cut the dairy. It's gotta be the dairy. She said, okay, well, when are you gonna start that? And I looked at her, and you know the line. I said, what about New Year's? In the new year, I think I could do that. So whether you're someone who's been refining your New Year's list since July, you've got it all mapped out on an Excel spreadsheet, line by line, you've got your plan of execution, or you're someone who simply just hopes to wake up on New Year's Day with a magical new life, a new year, and a new you, I want to ask you this question. Who are you becoming? Who do you want to become? And why not start today? John Mark Comer says this. He says, stasis is not on the menu. You and I, we are either being transformed into the love and beauty of Jesus or malformed by the entropy of sin. It's bold but true. You see, you and I were always moving in one direction or another, either becoming more like Jesus and the person he's called us to be, or in the opposite direction. This morning, I want to turn to 1 Samuel chapter 16. If you have a Bible, you can follow along with me. You might know this story. It's the story of David. The story of an ordinary boy turned shepherd. An ordinary boy then turned musician, who turned warrior and then turned king. You see, David's life is full of ordinary moments of faithfulness, especially in those early years, that then turned into this extraordinary life. I want to walk through just a part of the story with you in 3 short acts. Act 1, shepherd. Let me give you some context here. The prophet Samuel has been given instruction from the Lord to anoint a new king. King Saul had turned the nation of Israel away from God, and God had promised to pass along the kingship to another. And in fact, the scripture actually says to his neighbor. Man, that's got a sting. So Samuel shows up in Bethlehem, and he's looking for the family of Jesse. And as he filters through the sons, looking to anoint, to call out, to speak into existence Israel's next king, he recognizes there's one missing. That one is David. And where is David, the youngest of sons? Well, he's out tending the sheep. You see, God's showing up to anoint the next king of Israel for his people. But that person is out tending the sheep. You see, shepherding was not a slick job, not a great job for the future king of Israel, or not that one would think, but it is one that would have required some discipline. If I think about it in today's kind of terms, I'm thinking Save On Foods security guard, night shift, he's out there grinding. It's probably pretty boring, but there's a slight chance it could go dicey. But it's certainly not a glamorous role. But here's what we see. We see David, at the age of 10 or 12, faithfully showing up where he's at. David's not waited for some grand appointment or call. David's not waited for the best of what's next. Instead, he decided to show up faithfully right where he was. And so as the story goes, at Samuel's request, David returns home, and at that time is anointed to be the future king of Israel. Act 2, musician. We read that upon David's anointing, the spirit of favor that was resting on Saul was removed from him. And poor Saul was left with, instead of the spirit of favor, left with the spirit of torment. And in his anguish, Saul cries out and says to his servants, help me figure this out. There's got to be a way. And his servants suggest to him, let's find someone who plays some music. You can read with me in chapter 16, verse 17 and 18, and it says this. So Saul said to his servants, provide for me a man who can play well, and bring him to me. One of the men answered, behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, who is skillful in playing, a man of valor, a man of war, who's prudent in speech, and a man of good presence. Most of all, the Lord is with him. So picture this. You have David, this young man, anointed to be the king of Israel. You see, he's got the inside scoop. He knows what's coming before it's a reality. But Saul doesn't. And so he's summoned by Saul, the current crazy king. To do what? To play him music. The king that he knows he will replace. That's got to be a sticky spot to be in. If we go back to our save-on analogy, can you imagine? Saturday night, in the parking lot. It's a calm night, no dicey stuff. And you get a call. It's Jim Pattison. He wants to chat. Man, I'm getting old. I need someone. I got these headaches. I just need someone who can lean in, who can just be there for me, give me some relief. What a strange call that would be. And yet, we see David respond to the call faithfully, presently, right where he's at. And this is what it says about David's ministry to Saul. In verse 23, it says, whenever the harmful spirit of God was upon Saul, David took the lyre and played it with his hand. And so Saul was refreshed and was well, and the harmful spirit departed from him. David wasn't looking to the future. He wasn't waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect job, but once again, just serving faithfully right where he was at. Act 3, the warrior. This is the story of David and Goliath. Many of you know it. In chapter 17, you see David's been working 2 jobs. He's been the king's harp-playing armor bearer by day. He's tending his dad's sheep by night. The guy's working daytime down at gyms, and he's nighttime at Save-On Security. These are long days. And he's grinding, but continuing to show up faithfully. The story continues in chapter 17. It says this, and Jesse said to David his son, take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain. That was about 22 liters of grain. We're talking a lot of grain. And then 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp for your brothers. Also, take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000, and see if your brothers are well, and bring me some token from them. David, in the midst of his adolescence, to and from the battlefield, the future king of Israel, I mean, that's got to be the top of this guy's mind. Now working 3 jobs, watching the sheep, playing the harp, and delivering food to and from the front lines. And David, in that moment, serving faithfully, not where he wanted to be, but right where he was. And it's in this ordinary moment that we see God call David up from the mundane to the extraordinary. You see, while all the other Israelites are cowering in the shadow of Goliath, their enemy, David shows up. Not because he was trained, not because he had the experience, but I think because he was faithful in the simple things, and God was with him. It reads this way in verse 34 of chapter 17. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be just like one of them, for he has defiled the armies of the living God. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. 3 simple acts, 3 simple seasons, all marked by simple, ordinary obedience. You see, I think David's ordinary action and obedience made a way for God to use him in the extraordinary. It was his obedience in the simple things that made a way for God to use him in extraordinary ways. You and I aren't David. And I can't guarantee that your life will result in the extraordinary slaying of giants. I can't guarantee, or I probably don't even think, there's not a good chance that you're going to end up in a place of ruling nations, of excess power, of great influence. But what I can guarantee is that if you don't start where you are at today to begin on the journey of who you want to become, you may not start at all. As we close this morning, I want to leave you with two thoughts. Number one, personally, can I charge you this way? Don't wait till next year to get started on those goals in your life. Whether they be spiritual, whether they be practical, whether they be in your family or beyond, whether they're big or small. What does it look like for you to start now, start today, where you're at? You see, for David, it didn't start with giants. It started with shepherding. What areas of your life need you to shepherd them well in this season, in your context? Not as you want to be, but as you are. Because the reality is, you probably aren't where you want to be. But I know this, that you're not going to get there by waiting. Like my favorite Canadian songwriter says, it's just never quite next year. Can I encourage you with this? As we see with David, the Lord is with you. The same God who delivered David from the hands of lions, from bears, who helped him slay Goliath, who kept him safe from the hand of Saul, that same God is the one who walks with you and I. That he desires to know you, that he loves you, that he went to the cross for you, and he desires for you life in its fullness. So today, what would it look like for you to begin faithfully? Not where you want to be, but where you're at. Not on your own, but with the Lord's strength. Number two, corporately. We've been talking in our community a lot about what we've called Seed Sunday. It's this vision that we have to see the next generation cared for, to see the next generation flourish, and see the next generation have a space in our building, in our community, to grow, love Jesus, and love the world well. We know that that can't happen for free and want to invite you to be a part of it. So here's the ask. As we look to shepherd the next generation, we're looking for this: 250 people to give $50 per month. Let me say that one more time. We're looking for 250 people to either start giving $50 a month or increase their already monthly gift by $50. And here's what this looks like. Monthly, if we have 250 people who do that, that amounts to $12,500, or the cost of the fixed costs associated with our expansion next door on a monthly basis. Yearly, that looks like $150,000. That seems big, doesn't it? It seems hard to fathom. How could we do that? An extra $150K? It's almost like Goliath. But we don't need to start there. I want to encourage you to start where you're at with this. Can you afford 50? Maybe it's less than that. But if you don't start today, when will you start? If your life looks anything like mine, you feel like you're constantly living at the end of what you can afford. You're reaching for the lifestyle, the car, the stuff, the Christmas gifts, or whatever it might be for you. And that thing is always just barely out of reach. I think God has a better way. Generosity is the freedom from that, the freedom from the need to compete, the freedom from needing to have it all figured out. What would it look like for you, not tomorrow, not the next day, not next year, not when you have that car or the next house or you finish the renovation, but today, to start where you're at with $50? as I let you go this morning, I want to leave you with an ancient blessing. It really is our hope that you head into this new year with the fullness of Christ, that you feel empowered, invigorated, that you feel excited about what God's doing in our community, in your life personally, and in the world beyond. The book of Numbers says this. It says, "May the Lord bless you, and may he keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace." Happy New Year.